offline conference. So we are coming up with this international conference and virtual online conference so that everybody can get the benefit and our loved ones can see and meet all of us once again. Now, this international conference, as we all know, that we are facing very critical situation, especially COVID cases. I mean, despite being declining at different places, again, they have surged up in numbers. So with these intentions, we thought that what should be the best topic for this particular international conference. And therefore, we realized that right now, we have to focus on care for people and to be promoting the values of humanity. So with this intention, we have come up with a very apt theme for our international conference, that is exploring the application of solidarity approach in geography. And for this, I congratulate the entire team for coming up with this interesting topic, and also the dignitaries who have joined us in meeting at this endeavor. So ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning from Department of Geography, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College. And as the coordinator for this session and the co-convener of the conference, I, Dr. Amrita Bajaj, presents a hearty welcome to all the participants for this conference. It is also very gratifying to see many familiar faces, and as I've just mentioned, that we don't leave our loved ones behind. So therefore, I welcome all the people who have joined us from different colleges, from different universities, our dear students, our alumni from different places. A very warm welcome to all of you as well. Barack Obama once said, he reminded that in the fleeting time we have on earth, what matters is not wealth or status or power or fame, but rather how well we have loved and played a small part in making the lives of other people feel better. And I think this quotation is apt, and that is why I selected it for this moment, because this is the time we all have to share and care for not only our friends, our near and dear ones, but anybody who needs care from us. And this will promote good values in the entire humanity. And therefore, these kind of approaches needs to be discussed on such platform. So therefore, once again, I say that we have selected a very apt theme of exploring the solidarity approach at this critical time. Because we believe that we have to move from a materialistic world to a world which is full of care and humanity. And I really feel privileged that our dignitaries from different universities across the globe have joined us in today's occasion for supporting us in this cause. Now, to begin with this conference, the first most auspicious part in all is seeking the blessings of divine God. And here, whenever we are starting with something which is auspicious in nature, we always remember the Vignaharta, that is the Lord Ganesha. So let us begin with seeking his blessing. And while seeking his blessing, we like to have a Ganesh Vandhana by one of our very talented student, that is Maria Denis. So may I now request our organizing team, Yashraj, to kindly ask Maria Denis to go forward with the Ganesh Vandhana. Thank you.
गणनायकाय गणदेवताय गणाध्यक्षाय धीमहि गुणशरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणेशानाय धीमहि गुणाधीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि गानचतुराय गानप्राणाय गानान्तरात्मने गानोत्सुकाय गानमत्ताय गानोत्सुकमनसे गुरुपूजिताय गुरुदेवताय गुरुकुलस्थायने गुरुवे क्रमाय गुह्यप्रवराय गुरुवे गुणगुरुवे गुरुदैत्यकलक्षेत्रे गुरुधर्म सदाराध्याय गुरुपुत्र परित्रात्रे गुरुपाखण्डखण्डकाय गीतसाराय गीततत्त्वाय गीतगोत्राय धीमहि गूढगुल्फाय गन्धमत्ताय गोजयप्रदाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशाणाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशाणाय भालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि.
Maria, thank you so much. And it was really a wonderful and melodious presentation. I think you deserve a round of applause. So physically you can't see, but then you can imagine that we all are applauding for your wonderful performance. Moving forward, I would now want to introduce you to the dignitaries who have joined us for this conference. And to begin with, I will start with the chief guest for today's occasion. We have with us Professor Elena 𝐬𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐢𝐝, University of Milan, Bicocca, Faculty of Sociology, Department of Social Research, Italy, and ma'am is also the Vice President for the International Geographical Union. Ma'am, we wholeheartedly welcome you to this conference and sparing your valuable time for our cause. Thank you so much for gracing the occasion. Next, we have Professor Sanjay Chaturvedi. He is the Chairperson, Department of International Relations and Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, South Asian University, Delhi. And sir is the keynote speaker for today's session. Welcome you, sir, and we acknowledge your presence for our cause. Thank you so much. We are privileged to have a decorated list of guest of honors with us. So our first guest of honor is Professor Thomas Ponce Dentino, who is Professor of Economics, University of the Azores, Portugal. We welcome you, sir, in joining and supporting us in this international conference. Thank you so much. Next is our own dear, though everybody is dear to us, and I have my solidarity to all the people who are present here. But being from the University of Delhi, we have closeness to Professor Pandey, so we always say that he's dear to us. So Dr. B.W. Pandey, he is the next guest of honor, and he is the Associate Professor, Department of Geography, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. We welcome you, Professor Pandey. And we are also privileged to have among us various other dignitaries, especially our international advisor, Professor Alexei Maslakov from Moscow State University, and Professor Malik Akram Hussain from Jagannath University, Dhaka. Besides that, we have other important personalities in this who are attending this conference. We have Professor Negi joining us from Shaheed Bhagat Singh Evening. We have Dr. Arun Atri. We have Dr. Tejveer, and there are many other people who have joined us from different universities and institutions. So we are highly privileged and humbly pay our gratitude to all the people and the students and the alumni who have joined us in this conference. Now, this brainchild, see, we all know that any international conference we organize, a lot of effort is required in thinking about the topic, then organizing the particular conference. But the role of a convener, we say, is highly important because actually the topic is the brainchild of and hard work of a convener. So here we are delighted to have a very talented, dedicated, and great colleague who is also currently the head of the department for Department of Geography, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, and currently the convener of this conference, who is none other than Dr. Kavita Arora. So It's my pleasure to humbly invite Dr. Kavita for her welcome note and introducing the conference. Over to you, Kavita, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amrita. It's my pleasure. You actually very humbly introduced me. Good morning, everyone, one and all present in the conference in this meeting. On the behalf of Department of Geography, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, I welcome all of you. I welcome our chief guest once again, Professor Elena. You accepted my request and you attended this meeting. I also welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Sanjay Chaturvedi, Chairperson, Department of International Relations, South Asia University. I also welcome Professor Thomas Constantino uh, from Department of Economics, University of Azores, Portugal. I also welcome Professor Alexei Marshallakov, Moscow State University, and our international and national advisors who joined us. And I also welcome all the participants, presenters, uh, dignitaries who join us. I welcome our principal, Dr. A.K. Sardana, who very short notice always support us and guide us. Thank you, sir, for joining us. So I'll just begin with the key concept of this conference. As we all aware, the earth is one and the world is not. We all depend on one biosphere for sustaining our lives, yet each community, each country strives for survival and prosperity with little regard for its impact on others. Some consumes the earth resources at a rate that would leave little for future generations. Others, many more in numbers, consume far too little and live with the prospect of hunger, diseases, and early death. The COVID-19 crisis has become our newest teacher and teaches us the requirement of the solidarity more than before. This conference is an attempt to trace how international solidarity, which underlies the right to development and is key for its realization, can provide the impetus for our collective response to interconnected challenges in an interdependent world. It traces the evolution of the idea of international solidarity, connecting it to the emerging concepts of shared responsibilities. The conference discussion also includes state practices as revealed through national and international committees, commitments, and organizations, and of the working of a broad range of stakeholders which provide evidence of international solidarity in action. The conference also aimed to see the great convergence between the geographical conception of determinism, possibilism, neo-determinism, and solidarity perspective. The geographers, while dealing with earth and nature as their subject matter, always consider solidarity as an important aspect to develop their understanding and analyze. So therefore, the conference is an attempt to revisit and re-explore the geographical studies with this perspective of solidarity. With this thought, the Department of Geography, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, University of Delhi, India has decided to organize a two-day conference on exploring the application of solidarity approach in geography. And so then, with this concept, we invited all of you. And in this conference, in this two-day event, we have two panel discussion on a very important themes. The first panel discussion will take place today at 12:30 Indian Standard Time on globalization and regional solidarity. The discussion will be chaired by Professor B.C. Vaidya, Professor at Political Geography Division at JNU New Delhi. The session is co-chaired by Professor Pyal Basu Rai, Professor of Kuch Bihar Panchanan Verma University. In this session, we have panelists Professor Sarfraz Alam from Banaras Hindu University, Professor Andy Hinksbottom, Kingston University, Professor Aprajita Day, University of Delhi, Professor Veer Vyang, University of Sikkim. The aim of the session is to study and discuss the revival of regional solidarity as an alternative ideology to achieve the goals of human well-being and sustainable development, and also to explore the several dimensions affecting unevenly different regions and emerging research area. The second panel discussion is on the application of environmental solidarity. And here we are going to discuss this panel will discuss the application of environmental solidarity, its limitation. And in this panel is chaired by none other than our renowned professor, Professor R.B. Singh, and he is the IGU General Secretary right now and Treasurer. And this session is also co-chaired by Professor Braj Maharaj, Universities of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. This panel is also have discussion in between across the globe. Panelists are sharing their knowledge regarding the environmental solidarity concern and the applications. And the panelists are Professor Salman Jafar from Doha. He is the founder of 𝐬𝐴𝐐𝐻 organization. And another panelist is from Jagannath University, Dhaka. He is the professor of Department of Geography, Jagannath University. And the other professor is Professor Chirashiri Ghosh, and she is joining from Delhi University, Department of Environmental Sciences. We have various presenters are also going to present many interesting researches, and all the themes are divided in 8 technical sessions. These themes include regional development, urbanization, fast-growing cities and economic solidarity, development of rural societies and indigenous knowledge base, geopolitics, international diplomacy, political movement within nation state, climate change and international solidarity, hazard, disaster and integrating management, geography of care, responsibility and social mix, sustainable development and solidarity, and global food security, national resource management and solidarity. In the concluding session of this conference, we have Professor Himiyama, ex-president IGU. He is professor at Hokkaido University of Japan. He is going to join us as chief guest. Then we have our keynote speaker, Dr. Darwin Keller. He is from University of Glasgow, and he is going to speak on transportation solidarity. And in the last, we have our one of the guests of honor from Banaras Hindu University, again, Professor Rana P.V. Singh. He will talk about the cultural solidarity in this session. With this little brief introduction of conference, I would once again like to welcome all of you and thank you, my organizing committee and our patron principal, sir, to give guidance to us. I welcome once again all of you, and I wish all a fruitful deliberation and discussion on the solidarity concept. Thank you for joining us. Over to Dr. Amrita Bajaj.
Thank you so much, Kavita ma'am. And indeed, it was the concept was really described beautifully, plus the information you have given to the participants and the other members regarding what all is stored for them in these 2 important days while we are organizing this international conference. And once again, congratulations to you for all your efforts and hard work. So from our team as well, the organizing team, we salute you for this particular task. Now, Professor Negi was raising his hand. So may I take the privilege of, if Professor Negi is here, I think he has to communicate something. Professor Negi?
No, it was just by chance. Sorry.
Okay. Not an issue, sir. So moving forward, may I now take the honor to request one of the important personality of this institution, our own patron, Dr. Anil Sardana, to kindly address the gathering with his enlightening words. But before I invite Professor Sardana, I'd like to introduce Principal Sir to all our participants and dignitaries. Dr. Sardana is an excellent educator and leader. We are fortunate, and whatever we say for him is less because he does a lot for the institution. We are fortunate enough to be under such an efficient personality for the development of this college. He is an alumnus, a teacher, and currently the principal of our college. So he has a long association of almost 46 years with the University of Delhi. And that really means a lot because he has a lot of expertise and exposure, and he's inculcating all those in the betterment and development of this college. His ideas and foresight inspire us to move ahead and have multidimensional educational linkages. He is a person who is always by the side of the staff as well as the students, as he does not create any discrimination between the teachers and the students when it comes for the betterment of the institution. His progressive and purpose-driven strategy is an asset to the institution, and we are honored to have you as our principal, sir. So I now request you to kindly come and share your words of wisdom. Over to you, principal, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amrita Bajaj. You have really said a lot of things, and I'm really thankful to you. I need to deserve and do really work very hard to reach to all these questions. Well, I am really very delighted at this moment when, I am getting the opportunity of welcoming so many dignitaries from across the globe on this international conference of exploring the application of solidarity approach in geography. First of all, my congratulations to the whole department. I take this opportunity to welcome our so many guests who have really at this different timings, still they all have joined. To begin with, I will start with the chief guest. I welcome Professor Elena, keynote speaker, Professor Sanjay Chaturvedi, guest Professor Thomas Pond, guest of honor, Professor B.W. Pandey, international advisor, Professor Alexi, Professor Malik Akram, and I will take the opportunity to welcome our own, gentleman who is representing the highest body of the decision making and representing the teachers, Professor Negi. I would like to appreciate and put on record the work done by the whole team of the Geography Department, led by Dr. V.I.V. Raman, the conference director, Dr. Kavita Arora, convener of the conference, and co-convener, Dr. Amrita Bajaj, senior teachers of the department, and other teachers who have really worked very hard, because I have always been saying that our Department of Geography is a very cohesive department and they work as a team. I congratulate the department for organizing, I was listening to the whole coverage which is being done these 2 years. This is really remarkable, and this will definitely bring a lot of good things for the college as well as for the society as such, because the topic which has been chosen is really very relevant at this point of time. I welcome various other professors who have joined. I remember Professor R.B. Singh at this point of time. I hope he is also here. Otherwise, he is also one of the strong pillar in the Department of Geography and has always contributed towards our college. I welcome him in absentia if he is not there. And the delegates who have joined across the globe and who are joining as a guest, as a delegate, and my dear students, the students team who has made it possible. They work very hard, and the other students and the alumnus of the Department of Geography. So this is a time when we are all going to learn. I believe that this conference is definitely going to unfold the applicability of solidarity approach as it has been mentioned by Dr. Kavita Arora. As on date, we need, and always, there was always need of care. Whenever there is a caring and sharing, you take care of each and everything. If I care for you, I will look after for your welfare. When I'm having solidarity towards you, it means that it's my prime duty to see that you are in any way not harmed and you develop. This is what the geography has always been working when they have been talking about conservation, they have been talking about sustainability, they have been talking about eco-balance, when they have been talking about development, and when they talk about solidarity, when they talk about the different approaches of solidarity, basically, I believe that they are going to talk about how to take care of the environment, how to take care of relationship, how to take care of political relationship. So many aspects have been covered. When not only they are talking about the natural resources, they are going to talk about the climate change, they are going to talk about the international solidarity. This particular, I really congratulate the department of moving ahead and going for a very apt topic, very apt subject on which such a high dignitaries and illustrious professors are going to speak. I'm really thankful to all of them, and they have spared time for our college and for India as a matter of really thank them very much. And I give my compliments to the department for having organized this particular conference. I have attended all the conferences in the recent past of the Department of Geography, that they were international or national, but I am sure that this conference is definitely going to come up with some recommendations and some revelations which will work on the human values, on the ethics, on the development of emotional quotients and care. So my greetings to the whole department, and my support to the whole department who have worked very hard. Dr. Poonam Sharma, the senior teachers have really contributed, and Vishraj Sharma, Dr. Swati Rajput, and many others. Everybody contributes in the Department of Geography. I not only appreciate and I acknowledge, at the same time, I give my greetings and my good wishes to all of you for the success of this two-day conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And first of all, I would say thank you so much for the best wishes you have given to our department. And secondly, you have rightly said that social, political, economic, and environmental dimensions, all if we look at from a solidarity approach point of view, then definitely we can have a better development and we can promote higher values in the humanity. So thank you so much for beautiful insights, sir. And now, before I move forward, there's a small announcement that we are on Facebook Live, as we have got the permission from the dignitaries for that purpose. And we are also recording, not for the other purpose, and we'll not be putting up on any YouTube or etc. We are recording solely for the purpose of our administrative convenience. So this was a small announcement I wanted to make, and we have already taken the permission from dignitaries for this particular purpose. Thank you. Now, moving forward, there is a slight change in the program schedule, and as our keynote speaker, Professor Chaturvedi, and our guest of honor, Professor Pandey, has requested that they both have to leave, due to some emergency. So, Elena ma'am, being the chairperson, I would like to take the privilege that, if you permit me, may I now invite first the keynote speaker for his address, and later on for a brief address by Dr. Pandey. So, I like to seek your permission, Elena ma'am, for this purpose.
Yes.
Elena ma'am, are you there? Yeah.
Can I just interrupt?
Yeah.
I cannot do without the honor of listening to Professor Elena. I have been looking forward to it. So I have made some change in my schedule. So please go ahead as per the program. That is perfectly fine with me.
Okay.
And I am with you throughout the
That is really great. That is really great. Thank you so much, Professor Chaturvedi, for that purpose. But I think you have given us the permission. But here, Dr. Pandey, because he has an interview scheduled today. So I think, Dr. Pandey, if you're here, then with the permission of the chair, a quick brief we can have from you regarding the conference. Dr. Pandey, are you there? Dr. Kavita, can you trace Dr. Pandey, or should I move ahead with Elena ma'am's address? I think there is some discrepancy over there. So it's better that we should move, as requested by keynote speaker also, we should move with the words of wisdom by our dear chief guest, Professor Elena. Agnes. And before I'm moving to ma'am's address, I think a brief introduction regarding our today's chief guest. Professor Elena is an associate professor of geography and teaches courses on political geography and geography of development at the University of Milan, Bicocca. She also coordinates a postgraduate program in tourism and development. Her interests are focused on political geography and gender issues, especially related to nation building processes and regional iconographies in Europe and in Asia. European borders and their role as identity markers, cities as symbolic landscapes, and political places oblique spaces. The political geography of masculinity. So a wide field being covered by ma'am. She has been working on rural and urban deprivation, and she is also interested in urban developments and transformation. Since 2004, Elena del Igles is a member of the steering committee of the Commission on Political Geography of International Geographical Union. And as already mentioned, ma'am is currently the vice president of the union as well. Furthermore, she has published various papers in reputed national and international journals. She has written on many aspects on political geography of Bicocca and its territory, Promiscu and Sarajevo as symbolic landscape, ethnic landscape, identity constructions, and political opposition in conversation in Sicily, textbooks and geopolitical discourse in the United States of the early 19th century, the origins of manifest destiny, and making and remaking of a symbolic landscape, of the construction and reconstruction of a symbolic landscape, among others. So ma'am has a lot to her, and she has really done a lot of contribution to the geographical world, and especially in field of political geography. And we are delighted to have you among us, ma'am, and we are once again thankful that you have spared your valuable time. So over to you, ma'am. I request you to, humbly request you to kindly share your address with us.
Thank you, ma'am. It was
Thank you so much,
a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. Yes,
yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. In fact, it was a wonderful explanation you have given, especially when you are throwing light on the course of geography across different universities. You have touched upon important figures like McIntyre, and how solidarity was not initially a part of geography, but has become a new entry with the geography in the recent years. Then different concepts of solidarity have touched upon, and how it not only includes the national community inside the boundaries, but something which is beyond that, and the ultimate unity with the nature. So really, ma'am, it was a marvelous and wonderful message. And once again, we are grateful that you are here with us, gracing this occasion as the chief guest for our international conference. Now, moving forward, Kavita di, I just want to clarify that Dr. Pandey has joined. So can we go ahead with just a brief
so
address?
We have to take, yes, we have to take permission from Elena ma'am, Professor Chaturvedi, and yes, Professor Thomas too.
Please go ahead.
Yes, okay, thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Elena ma'am, may I now invite Dr. Pandey for a brief address? Okay, so
very good morning, Amrita.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
And yeah, before I invite you, let me just introduce you to the participants. Dr. Pandey, he's an associate professor in the University of Delhi, Department of Geography, Delhi School of Economics. Sir is a specialist in mountain ecology. He is having almost 22 years of experience of teaching and research at the University of Delhi. He teaches geography of Himalaya and has completed research projects on cryospheric hazard susceptibility and vulnerability assessment for livelihood security in mid-altitude region of Western Himalaya. Sir has received British Council International Collaboration Project between the University of Delhi and University of Bath, United Kingdom. He is an executive member of the International Geoscience Education Organization. He is member of the Executive Council of Institute of Indian Geographers. Dr. Pandey is an executive external international member of the advisory board of the Afro-Montane Research Unit, Advisory Board, University of the Free State, Kwakwa Campus, South Africa. Besides that, Sir has supervised numerous MPhil and PhD. He has a numerous amount of publications in both national and international journals. And it's our privilege that Sir is here as the guest of honor for today's occasion. Of course, he is in a hurry, so we have to make this change in the schedule. But may I now take the privilege and humbly invite Dr. Pandey for a very brief address. Thank you, sir. Over to Dr.
Thank you, Amrita. Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
So good morning, everyone. And first of all, my sincere thanks to the #1 Department of Geography in the country, in the college, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, the largest geography department in the country, and not only in the number, but also in the quality of the work everyone is experiencing over the decade, the back-to-back programs which are going on from international level, national level, and other forum from Shaheed Bhagat Singh College. So thanks to Principal Dr. Sardana sir, and my senior colleagues, Dr. B.A.B. Daman, Dr. Poonam, Dr. Swati, Dr. Kavita, Dr. Vishwa Sharma, Dr. Suraj, Dr. Amrita Bajaj, and so many other colleagues. It's a very long list to take the name. I give my regard to everyone, and I congratulate to taking such a wonderful topic of solidarity. And this is a kind of contemporary issue when we talk about solidarity, geography, its existence. It's a interrelation or intra-relation subject. It all depends on this solidarity. So when we talk about ecological solidarity, biological solidarity, social solidarity, economic solidarity, all having the different aspects of the physical geography, economic geography, human geography, all that depends on this solidarity. Take a simple example. Right from the beginning stage of the ecological succession, when you come to the niche, and from niche to climax, when it comes, the time duration between niche to climax coming all together, it is a symbol of solidarity. Climax cannot be achieved. Serene in ecological system cannot be achieved without gaining the point of solidarity. Similarly, when it comes about the social geography, we talk about social geography, human geography, and what we're talking about all together is that human welfare, social fencing, social integration. And finally, when it comes to the ultimate topic of the social well-being, generating the capacity of the social capital, the concept of de-stratification of the society, concept of the social fencing, social well-being, social capital can't be achieved without the gaining the concept of solidarity. Similarly, you can find all the areas of geography, to the disaster management, to the remote sensing GIS, urban planning, everywhere up to the regional planning to agricultural geography. Each and every sector of geography, there is a column of solidarity. And without solidarity, the concept of geographical needs can't be achieved. Therefore, this topic gives immense importance to discuss, having a lot of point to be incorporated in this meeting. I believe my senior fellow geographers, Professor Siddiqui Sahab, and many others who have joined will conclude this topic, I have to appear before the selection committee by 11. So now I take goodbye for everyone with the humbling head, because I have to rush to the Vice Regal Hall. So I take permission to everyone. Maybe I will join later after the completion of the interview.
Best of luck, Professor Pandey. Best of luck.
Best
Thank you, sir.
wishes.
Thank you,
Sir,
Thank
best
you.
wishes.
Kavita,
Best wishes. My best wishes.
All the best, sir. All the best.
All the
Best
best.
wishes, sir.
Best.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kavita.
Thank you
For
so
this
much, sir, for
special
your
day.
kind words. And I know that you are already seeking blessings from a lot of people, and from our side also, we wish you best for your interview. And I think by afternoon, we'll call you not Dr. Pandey, but Professor Pandey. So we are sure of that. And thank you so much, sir, for your words of appreciation and motivation to our department, and focusing light on important aspects that how all interrelations depend on solidarity, how concept of human welfare and social well-being is important in each and every sphere of geography. There is a solidarity approach, and these concepts have to be linked with these aspects so that we can have geography talking about a lot and helping us in development of solidarity approach. Thank you so much, sir, and once again, best wishes from everybody who are present in this conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Before moving forward, I would like to welcome few of the dignitaries who have joined us. We have with us Dr. Sudhir Sinha. Sir is the principal of evening Shaheed Bhagat Singh College. We have with us Professor A.R. Siddiqui, who is currently the head at the Department of Geography, Allahabad University. We have Dr. Lubna Siddiqui, who has joined us from Jamia University. We are highly grateful and privileged to have you all among us. Thank you so much for joining and motivating us, in this conference. Moving forward, and sir is very kind enough to allow Professor Pandey to speak before him. We have with us our keynote speaker, Professor Sanjay Chaturvedi. So before I invite sir, I briefly like to introduce him to all the participants here. Professor Chaturvedi is a professor and dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, and chairperson, Department of International Relations at the South Asian University, Delhi. Before joining South Asian University, Professor Chaturvedi was professor at the Department of Political Science in Punjab University, Chandigarh. He has more than 35 years of experience in research and teaching, including postdoc at the University of Cambridge, England, with Nehru Century British Commonwealth Fellowship, followed by an award of highly coveted Leverhulme Research Grant. He has authored 2, co-authored 3, and co-edited 8 books and published in international peer-reviewed journals. He is the founding vice chair of the Indian Ocean Research Group, IORG, currently an observer in the Indian Ocean Rim Association, IORA. He is also the editor and member of many flagship journals. Professor Chaturvedi was elected as the co-chair of the Research Committee on Political and Cultural Geography of International Political Science Association for 2 consecutive terms, 2006 to 2012, which shows his popularity as a personality in this particular field. He has also served on the steering committee of the IG Commission on Political Geography. He has contributed a lot in the field of geopolitics and international relations, theories and practices, especially in relation to polar regions and the Indian Ocean region, South Asian geopolitics, classical and critical partition, and boundary studies, with special reference to South Asia. Sir is also associated with the Antarctic Treaty, consultative meetings, Track 2 dialogues, and IPCC 6th Assessment Report 2019 to 2021. Sir, we are glad and we acknowledge your presence in our conference. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time, and over to you now, sir.
Thank you very, very much for these very kind words. Before I proceed further, let me just confirm that I hope my PPT is visible. Everything is all right?
Yes, sir. It is perfectly visible, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful to you, to Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, for doing me this honor and inviting me to be in such a distinguished company. I would like to acknowledge at the outset the presence of my good old friend, very distinguished geographer, from whom I have learned a lot over long decades, Professor Elena, the Vice President of 𝐈𝐍𝐴𝐺𝐢, Professor Tamaz, Honorable Principal, Dr. Anil Sardana, Dr. Pandey, Dr. Raman, and you, Dr. Kavita Sharma, who was so kind enough to call me the other day and extend to me a very warm invitation. So I really feel very honored. Let me begin by making a confession, which is that I'm not a geographer by training. Whatever geography I have learned, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity, I have learned from my very distinguished colleagues, geographer colleagues from all over the world, including, as I mentioned, Professor Elena, and my numerous travels, because I always felt that crossing scales, crossing disciplinary boundaries, and visiting different parts of the globe do make you a geographer, in the sense that they do make a lot of reference to your socio-spatial consciousness, which of course is related in so many intimate ways to the very notion of solidarity. Let me also begin by saying that this presentation is dedicated, and I will speak slowly here before accelerating, given that I have got about 20 minutes to cover what I need to say. This presentation is dedicated to critical geographies of hope, reasonable hopes, relentlessly encountering, interrogating, debating geopolitics of fear, often unfounded, in pursuit of location-sensitive, minilateral, anti-hierarchical solidarities across national boundaries, boundaries of all kinds, including the boundaries of disciplines, scales, institutions, agendas, constitutions, in a single pursuit. And that is that in pursuit of much needed shift from domination to non-domination as the fundamental principle of a humane governance of a world, in fact, a world of worlds, in which both the human and the non-human remain in peaceful coexistence. Now, needless to say that this requires liberation from the cartographic imprisonment, or what Professor John Agnew has said, and Professor Elena also alluded to it, the territorial trap. But it is not just the liberation from these cartographies of the territorial trap, but also the ethno trap. And I think Professor Elena made a wonderful reference to it. So that would also, you will find, getting resonated in my presentation this morning. Now, let me move forward and start by outlining as briefly, as concisely as I can, the context, underlining the need to pluralize what is now called the Anthropocene. And let me begin by quoting a very distinguished critical geographer, Professor Matthew Spark, who wrote in this fascinating book, I quote, "In an important ecological sense, life on Earth has always been globalized. Our evolution and health as human beings have been dependent from the start on our interactions with the planetary ecosystem. Nevertheless, the anthropocentric forms of globalization have fundamentally changed these ecological interdependencies, making us the dominant global species and creating today what some scientists refer to as a new ecologically turned geological era, the Anthropocene." So it goes without saying that we are all meeting here talking about solidarities, very much facing the pandemic, that is the COVID, that is the Corona and COVID pandemic that we are facing right now. So it goes without saying, and I underline this particular point made by Dr. Simon Lewis, that the first stage of our solving a damaging relationship with our environment is by recognizing it. And I think that needs to be the first step towards or in the quest for solidarities. Now, Anthropocene, as I said, needs to be pluralized. And in my view, that is extremely important. Now, this is not to suggest that we are not a humanity. This is not to suggest that we are not facing the challenges of climate change and unsustainability together. But this is also to draw attention to the fact that the combination of wealth and power with the extreme weather and climate change is already having disastrous impacts on the majority of the world's people. So this is where we have a reference to inequality. The line is not only between rich and poor or comfort and poverty, it is between survival and death. And I think that acknowledgement has to be made early on. Can billions in the majority world of global south develop the way millions in the minority world have? The answer, as it also emanates from this book, Environmental Sustainability from the Himalayas to the Oceans, is a big no. And I quote from this book, as China and India get their acts together to address the common challenge of sustainable low carbon futures, they simply cannot afford to underplay the gravity of current environmental unsustainability. They can see the writing on the wall. Environmentally unsustainable present can only lead to an unsustainable future. And I think that is the common message that came from various contributions to this edited volume. And I was very proud to be associated with this. So we are looking at intersections of unsustainability. Future of sustainability and sustainable futures, I wish to argue and illustrate in the course of my presentation, are intricately intertwined. Now these books and the titles of these books, the images on the book, speak for themselves. And I've always argued that, and taking just one example of India and China as planetary powers, that whatever they do, whatever the choices they make, these choices or do not make will have a great impact on the entire planet and even beyond. So we are looking at a world of 7 billion where, of course, we are going to have many more millions added as the clock ticks away. Now, as we look at these demographic trends, it is also very important to take a look at what is going on right in front of our eyes. Now, I will just give you a few examples, particularly from the domain with which I remain a little more familiar, and that is the oceans. So the World Resource Institute draws our attention for examples. These are the examples, the high seas. And it also says that what we see here is a cycle of ecosystem health, declining ecosystem health and productivity. So our joint responsibility is to act urgently and decisively to return the decline of these immense global commons. The Western Indian Ocean pristine ecosystems, for those who are interested in economics and the statistics and figures and so on, in the question of the value, putting value on nature, $25 billion annually are under threat here. Now, we all know that the blue economy narratives are also unfolding before our eyes. And what we are looking at, again, in numerical terms, is about $24 trillion key ocean assets. Now, as the Global Ocean Commission report reminds us that the challenge is that how do we move from decline to recovery? What kind of rescue passage we would require, say, for the global commons? Now we are faced on the seas, on the high seas, the problem of IUU in fishing, which has a very negative ecological, economic, and social impacts. We are looking at the fact that the current ocean governance arrangements are not sufficient, or much more needs to be done. And as I pointed out earlier, the high seas are facing a cycle of declining ecosystem health and productivity. And then we know, as we have been told again and again by those entrusted in these issue areas, that the plastics are a major source of pollution on the high seas and health threat to humans and the environment. This reflects poor handling and waste management practices on land and requires a combination of political and regulatory action, supported by an increase. This is just one example of the kind of awareness we need, the consumer awareness. Many other examples of climate emergency, the new fire zone, as you can make out from these slides. And if we are looking for evidence, there is plenty. I mean, just look at the two ends of the globe. If you look at the Arctic sea ice, we all know what is going on in the Arctic, the thinning and the retreat of the Arctic sea ice. If we look at Antarctica, and with these two polar regions, I have been associated for a very long time. So I'm reminded of, say, for example, the Arctic Council. In the case of the Arctic, I'm reminded of the Antarctic Treaty System. in the case of Antarctica. And just to underscore one important point, which is that, as I pointed out early on in my presentation, that when we are talking about building up these unilateral labyrinth or unilateral framework of all kinds of solidarities, we also have to take into account institutions. How institutions like the Antarctic Treaty System or Arctic Council, or in case of South Asia, SAARC or BIMSTEC, in the case of the Indian Ocean region, Indian Ocean Rim Association, how they can also become very valuable sites to build up all kinds of multilateral, unilateral solidarities. So here you have a challenge coming from Antarctica. We know what is going on. This is just one image of the Larsen C iceberg. And we know that the future fate of Antarctica ice sheet is one of the largest uncertainties in climate science. So that goes without saying how important science and scientific knowledge is going to be. Having said that, it would also be very important to critically interrogate the politics behind the production of geographical knowledge. Here we are looking at a very important intersection between the ethical considerations and the scientific evidence or scientific considerations. Now we know that a lot is happening in different parts of the globe on diverse landscapes. And here are just some of these images for you to take a quick look at. Now, if you look at climate change now, within the context of the Anthropocene, then this is what we are looking at. A trend analysis becomes critically important. Look at the socio-economic trends, for example, the population, real GDP, foreign direct investments. Look at the urban population, primary energy use, fertilizer consumption, and look on the other side, on the same slide, the Earth system trends, including the stratospheric ozone, surface temperature, ocean acidification, and so on. So these realities stare in our faces as we speak right now. The greenhouse gas emissions also remain very, very pervasive. Now, coming to climate change more specifically, we are now talking about all kinds of tipping points and the manner in which these planetary boundaries are being pushed. The World Meteorological Statement on the State of Global Climate in 2018 reminds us that 2018 was the 4th warmest year on record. Ocean heat content is at a record high. Extreme weather is having very pervasive impacts on livelihoods and sustainable developments on every continent. Average global temperature reached approximately 1 degree centigrade above pre-industrial levels. And we are being told that, and there is a reason to worry here, that we are not on track to meet climate change targets and rein in temperature increases. So this is how you look at the state of the global climate. Glaciers are retreating, ocean heat contents are at a record high. And as I pointed out, Arctic and Antarctic sea ice, they are still declining. No doubt, IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, is making a very important contribution. We have a number of reports. Just in front of you is only one report, which is the Ocean and Cryosphere in Changing Climate, High Mountains, Polar Regions, Ocean and Marine Life, Sea Level Rise. And it points out, and this is an important point to note, that what we need is knowledge, not for the sake of knowledge. Of course, that is important, but knowledge for action. And that is where comes the challenge of collective behavioral change towards solidarity of solidarities. And I'm pluralizing, as I did, the concept of Anthropocene. I'm also pluralizing the concept of solidarity. Now here, one thing which is going to be very important and remains very important is the language and the metaphors. How do we communicate this sense of urgency? How do we communicate the need for building up this architecture of solidarity of solidarities? Now, I think this is where we have a big challenge, both the scientists and the social scientists, geographers included. Now, this is what we are told, looking at the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. It's about 100 seconds away, how close the world is in terms of catastrophe. We are using the words like doomsday clock, true emergency, and that brings me to the seminal writings, and there are so many of them, of very distinguished geographer Mike Hume, who has written a lot on climate change. And he makes a very important point, which I think remains very relevant when it comes to the task of building up solidarities. He says, I quote, "We want to understand climate change by focusing only on its physicality. We need to understand the ways in which we talk about climate change, the variety of myths we construct about climate change, and through which we reveal to ourselves what climate change means to us." Now, it goes without saying that there is a very complex geography to this meaning, because depending upon the locations, climate change could very well look very differently to different constituencies, different communities, differently located or diversely located. But one thing is very clear, that fear of climate change is unfolding within the larger context of a climate of fear. And what is that? Fear has become an environment, culture of fear, from which the subject of hope perhaps simply appears out of place. It has been replaced by an obsession with levels of alarm and emergency, the management of how much we are to be scared, unquote. Now look at the dilemma that the scientists face. They need solidarities. They need solidarities across sectors, across scales, all over the world. And then the point is, how do you communicate? So Sir David King says, in my view, climate change is the most severe problem that we are facing today, more serious even than the threat of terrorism. James Lovelock says, billions of us will die, and the few breeding pairs of people that will survive will be in the Arctic, where the climate remains tolerable by the end of the 21st century. Needless to say that by using this language, by using these vocabulary, by using these narratives, we are trying to provide a concrete substance to what remains sometimes very, very abstract notions of climate change. But they are important. Now, Stephen Hawking said, terror only kills hundreds of thousands of people. Global warming could kill millions. We should have a war on global warming rather than a war on terror, unquote. And then we also have narratives which tend to securitize. For example, in the Bay of Bengal, in the Indian Ocean region, climate change related challenges are now being perceived in a very, very different perspective. Now, that has also led to narratives which you can see visually represented on this slide. Now, one very important issue, and I'm looking at my watch, is 17 minutes and 30 seconds. So I'm very confident I'll be finishing within 20 minutes. Now, according to Gregory White, I quote, and this is about the climate change and migration, there is ample conceptual muddle regarding CIM, the lack of definition and the incapacity to agree on fundamental methodologies, estimates, and scope provide the political opportunities for inappropriate and ineffective policy responses. The invocations of the present Rohingyas, Chakmas, and future refugee crisis stemming from climate change can be politically loaded, and the potential for political mischief remains profound. So the point that I'm trying to make is that so far, the scientific evidence based on research suggests, I quote, dire or emotionally charged warnings about the consequences of global warming can backfire if presented too negatively, making people less amenable to reducing their carbon footprint. So where do we go? What do we do? My argument is, taking the example of climate change, sustainable development goals, and so on, my submission is that we need to broaden and deepen the discourse of climate change by also taking into account, Professor Elena also made a reference to it, environmentalism of the poor, because it is the poor and the marginalized who have the largest stakes in climate change. They are the ones who are likely to have multiple exposures, not only to the physical impacts of climate change, but in some cases that might well happen, unfortunately, though, also to securitizing narratives of climate change. So then, what is needed? As we talk about solidarities across scales, times, and so on, we need to focus on the concept of social justice. In this part of the world, climate justice, environmental justice, and social justice are intricately intertwined. Now take a look at this figure. These are the lobster tanneries to luxury leather. The slum area of Hazaribagh, where this child plays, might look like a garbage dump, but it is the production site of luxury leather goods that are sold around the world. So solidarity depends, I can conclude by making these very quick references by Judith Blau says, and I quote, it's a very thoughtful quotation, solidarity depends on the universal recognition of equality, equality and differences. By the universal recognition of equality, I mean that we recognize the equal worth and dignity of all humans and their equal rights to prosper and thrive. By the universal recognition of differences, I mean that we all recognize that we are all different and unique, equally entitled to enjoy our own racial identity, ethnicity, gender identity, hobby, lifestyle, culture, religion, and much else. Enjoying and celebrating both quality and diversity is the key to personal authenticity as well as to a vibrant society. It turns out to be, it is also the key to survival as the planet heats up. The only way to show this heating process is through cooperation. But as I said, also Professor Elena pointed it out that we need to take not just when we talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, for example, that the entire universe is one family. We have to recognize that we are not only talking about the human world, but we are also talking about the non-human world and this very intricate relationship between the two. Building solidarities, giving you just the example of climate change, as this slide shows, is not going to be an easy task, but it is not impossible. What is needed is a move towards a planetary geopolitics, a new geography, a new understanding of geographies, new understanding of politics. As Swami Vivekananda said, all differences in this world are of degree and not of kind, because oneness is the secret of anything. So this appeal that has come from Millennium, from a number of my colleagues, we must ensure that our politics, our diplomacy, and our institutions are open to those who will bear the brunt of ecological change. So it should emerge as an alternative thought, different kinds of practices where the local, national, and global are no longer defined our only spaces of action. And then to conclude, the geopolitics of climate change, as I've argued with Professor Timothy Doyle, in the future will continue to oscillate between imaginative geographies of fear and counter-imaginative geographies of hope, depending upon the ideological moodings and power political agendas. But one thing is very clear, and that is my last slide, that we have to look at a new poetics of hope. We have to look at approach the concept of solidarity, pluralizing it from different standpoints, from different perspectives. And as Rabindranath Tagore said, and I'm very fond of citing this, I think almost in almost every presentation I make on climate change and sustainable development issues, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dairy desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country and also humanity awake. So thank you very, very much indeed. I'm very grateful for this honor and the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Indeed, it was a wonderful lecture by you. It was really a credible lecture on climate solidarity. And when you have touched upon the concept of anti-hierarchical solidarity, how it is required in our society currently, and the much needed shift which is required from the dominance, the peaceful coexistence of people, how it can promote, an approach towards solidarity. You have beautifully reflected the work of different people and how they have touched upon the concept of solidarity in their piece of work. It was really amazing. How institutions also are doing pretty well to try to build up multi-level solidarity. And the best and the most important part, that how climate change, social and economic justice, climate justice, all these are actually the integrate part of solidarity. So we cannot differentiate and work upon them. In fact, there's an intricate balance which is required. And it was really a marvelous and beautiful message from you at the end, sir. Thank you so very much. And it was a pleasure to have you in our conference. And thank you so much that you try to help us in maintaining the program schedule as well. Thank you for everything, sir.
Thank you. I need your permission to leave now, if I may.
Thank you, sir.
To all of you.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for coming.
Thank
you very much.
And goodbye, Elena, and we'll be in touch. Professor Elena.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you very much for your lecture. It was great. Thank you. I really hope to see you around the world presto.
Okay. Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chaturvedi. It was indeed wonderful to hear listening out.
So moving forward, we have our next guest of honor. So last but not the least, of course, we have Professor Thomas Constantino, who is Professor of Economics at the University of Azor, Portugal. He received his PhD from the University of Newcastle upon Tyne, 1990-1994. He's also the representative of the Association of Higher Planning and Planning Schools at the University of Azores. In addition to being a professor, he is a member of the Council of the Regional Science Association International and also the Executive Director of the association. He is the Chief Editor of the International Scientific Journal, Regional Science, Policy and Practice since 2017. His expertise is in the field of regional economics, urbanism, operational research, environment and agriculture, and he has enlightened the academia in all these fields for many years. He has, to his credit, several scientific articles published in both national and international journals, over 200 articles published in newspapers, so you can understand, his prominent place in the media, more than a dozen interviews on radio and television, and several conferences across many countries. Sir, we deeply acknowledge your presence in today's program, and over to you, sir, for your address.
Okay, thank you very much for this invitation and congratulations for this very interesting initiative. My talk is about solidarity, volunteering, and proximity. And the purpose is to understand the relations between these different concepts. I do that in first presenting a conceptual model that somehow I pick up from economics because I'm an economist, and then use a very simple method, the Q method, that's very spread around, to somehow to extract what is the main features of solidarity and what we can learn from it. And I conclude that, in fact, at least regarding economics, we need a new theory or new theories, new concepts, more integrated concepts, or that joint economics and solidarity and space that hopefully we are trying to do in regional science, that it is, from my understanding, the study of human interaction within space. So I don't know how to, one moment. I think I have to stop this and then to open again. To open again. Yeah, so if we look at UN Sustainable Goals in 2015, and we organize them in an attempt to have the virtuous circles of development, we can see that most of these goals related with solidarity are only in these two parts of the group of goals that are related with distribution and consumption, or with solidarity and consumption. But of course, that's my argument. The world is very much integrated, and the concept production, consumption, capital, investment, well-being, everything is somehow integrated, and we need to understand, and we all understand that, in fact, solidarity is for many centuries, many millenniums, a problem, an issue, a very interesting issue that somehow must be conceptualized as an whole, and not only as a connection between distribution and consumption. And so that's why my argument, we need more. We need to, on one hand, to look at these UN Sustainable Goals, which is a myriad of interesting concepts. First of all, to try to integrate them in a more effective way, and on the other hand, perceive that some of the targets that we usually announced as very important, and all of them are, we must somehow understand that they are at least at different scales, at the local scale, at the regional and national and world scale, they are interacting with each other. And although we can get simple principles of movement, of moral principles, ethical principles of change, of behavior, in fact, we need to understand what are the global impacts of these to have a better perception through knowledge, what is the impact of our behavior. So it's so for a long time we have people that thought about. So I just cite two persons. So altruism is the altruism, donation, pro-social contact, and reciprocity. So all these are part of our human interaction since we are humans. And what the economy adds to this is that somehow the need for rationality, for efficiency, which is, of course, a small part of it. It's not everything, but it allows us to include to use the scarce resources we have also for the solidarity. So on one hand, we have this objective of sharing, and on the other hand, we must, which is somehow given by our conscience, but and our creeds. But on the other hand, we have this need to rationalize, to do it in a better way. So how to combine these two perspectives, that on one hand we have an aim to share, and we can share, and we volunteer, we help each other, and on the other hand there is obviously something that must be needed to improve that capacity of giving, that possibility for everybody to have a better life. And that's the challenge we have, and that's somehow where we need something in terms of thinking. Because my colleagues, economists, what they do was, okay, let's think first of efficiency, and then we get the money, and then we distribute. We know nowadays that this is not so much like that, because all this is more integrated. But anyway, that's the challenge, the knowledge challenge that we have, and I think that what I'm trying to address here. Okay. So for many religions, of course, the volunteering, the altruism, the consideration of the other, love is very important. It is the more important concept we have. Caritas et Veritas in the Pope encyclica, it tells these that in fact the economy of charity is very much the answer, as it is in many cultures, but it must be understood, evaluated, and practiced in the light of truth. And of course, truth is what we want to have in science and also for ourselves. So that in terms of concepts of these utility functions that usually we economists use, or these production functions, these aiming functions, first of all, we must assume that there is a limit to any utility for a certain amount of consumption, and on the other hand, that somehow we have utility, we get well-being if we are more happy if we give part of our assets to others, either directly or through volunteering work or through compassion. In fact, that's normal in human beings. We talk about, we do it more with family and within proximity, but anyway, that's selfishness is not a human reality. So in fact, we like to interact with each other and to have compassion with each other with some, and we must understand somehow, that's my issue, how we do this, not as a normative thing, but a natural thing that then, of course, can be rationalized. And that's the let's say the assumption where from which I start off. So that's so it's a small shift in the economic theory, assuming that the utility function has a maximum and that we got some utility from giving to the others. This slide gives that a kind of classification of types of altruism. So we have love altruism, which is the more natural, as I told. We have the common good altruism, that's what we give to a common purpose, a public good, and also we have this selfish altruism that we give, but we are expecting something in return. And it's important that we deconstruct altruism in order to not only to understand him, but eventually to turn it to be more effective in the way we design it and we promote it. Okay, so that's the main idea. So, but of course that's difficult because it's everything is mixed. So when a mother takes care of her children, she does it for love, of course, natural love, for enjoyment and security, selfish altruism, or because the country needs to regenerate children, and so the families responded to the population policies that are pushed forward by the governments. Also, when a young university student goes for work for 2 months in vacation for some poorer region, he does it out of compassion, so for love, for training, selfish altruism, and for common good, because it's also reduce poverty or to help the poor is also to promote a public service that is important to fulfill. When someone gives a drug dealer in the street some money for parking, of course that's altruism for love, because you feel compassionate with the other guy that is there, but also it can be fear for robbing the car or to mitigate the social evil. Or when we do self-construction, we help each other in building a house or building something. Of course, we do it because we need to. It's good to help the other. We expect some retribution, and we want to do something for the public, for the common purpose. So that's somehow the classification, the systematization of altruism. It's that I picked up from literature, but anyway, of course, you can suggest another. That's just a framing of what I'm going to analyze the data that I collect. Okay, so let's go for common good altruism, so the public services. So of course, which the perception of the reasons of donation is important, but the common goods is somehow we accept that our utility, our behavior, our well-being depends on having public goods also. So this requires, on one hand, proximity, but it's easy to get in a traditional feast that everybody puts money to the party and the traditional party, and then we get a party that is organized and it's adjusted throughout time along with tradition. So nevertheless, it is not so easy to internalize the benefits when for all common goods, as we know, there is problems of governance all over the world, and there is space for improvement in that. And sometimes, although private charities are not many times efficient because they tend to have a mixture of selfishness and on different types of altruisms, well, eventually they are the best of the worst, or the best of the worst solutions to achieve that. So Anyway, it is we have a problem there. We have a problem that on one hand, the effect of a donation is not necessarily the best. On the other hand, the aims of the donor are not necessarily the best but that's the problem of, if you want to consider altruism and the donation that's in each one of us as a natural behavior. So eventually you need to try to understand it better and to disentangle different components that it has. And that's the purpose. So we look at the economics of volunteering. So just to understand that, in fact, the production of voluntary work or the production of a gift is a very complicated issue. It's not like a common good issue that we collect taxes to provide public goods. It's not like a production system that we collect, we join different efforts to produce something that is sold on the market. So it is complicated, and that's the I think it's not easy. It's not enough to talk about solidarity, because in fact solidarity is in our hearts. We have compassion for the others. We feel guilty when something is not going well. We in proximity or at a distance, when we listen something in a television or we listen to some news in the other side of the world. But nevertheless, we know that all these efforts that have been done since our globalization process has been more wholesome, aiding Africa and so on. We know that's a lot of things to do to improve the efficiency and the impact of this solidarity behavior that all of us have. So we need, in fact, a better organization, learning from the good cases, a better organizations that we need, that are there, and also to because it's a combination of market, tradition, political systems, and creativity for new forms of altruism, and also to understand where we should target in order to have the best results. So that in economics of voluntarism, that's just a simple way to express it. It is somehow it's a specific altruism, so that we, instead of giving money, we give our own work. So it is the same, but the problem is that on one hand, when we give something, we get a small benefit out of it. We like to do it, and on the other hand, there is a cost of doing it. On one hand, because the person that receives our donation eventually does not want this. On the other hand, because he or she or the community becomes begging, and there is all these issues of Dutch disease, or because in fact the cost of distribution of money is very collecting and distribution of goods and money or work, it's very costly. So there is all these issues, all these, as I told, the production of solidarity, the effectiveness of solidarity that needs to be taken into account, because otherwise it's just something that, okay, I gave money to the charity and that's it, and we don't care about what is the impact on the other side, and somehow it is lost. So we missed or we have done something for this global problem, but in fact the effectiveness of this, we now understand it's good for our conscience, but the effect is eventually could be improved. So that's the idea, and this is just a conceptualizing of this problem. Okay, so the conceptual model is somehow the idea that it is a complex production system. So we must take it seriously, because not only it is complex, but also it depends very much on the what we are targeting. And of course, there I think geography plays the first role, because when things are complex, space helps to organize it. Space helps a lot, and the proximity issue becomes very important, not only to understand the problem, but also to improve the actions to address the problem. And so that's there. What I'm doing here is just to do a Q method. So it's the model, the process is relatively simple. So the question is, which are the factors most striking in an effort to perform volunteering, and what can be improved to increase the level of performance of this solidarity? And I'm answering these just in a simple approach, that I target the solidarity organizations here in the islands. I put them a series of 30 phrases that were collected from the internet about solidarity, and then they rank these phrases, and we can extract from these what are the values and attitudes of the different stakeholders that work in solidarity institutions, and also some of my colleagues to have an outside perspective. So the phrases are these 31 phrases. We must have in this exercise have more phrases than people that we interview, but although the survey, the sample seems to be small, in fact, each one of the interviewees, he or she compares the 31 phrases. So the number of observation, in fact, it is much bigger than the just 20 or 24 that we collect. So in terms of method, we could not have more than 31 persons to be interviewed, so it is redundant. But we have for each one of these interviewees, 31 times 31 divided by 2, more or less, a number of comparisons, and that's how there is enough data to analyze. Okay, so we present that in a survey, and then people rank in a Likert scale from -4 to +4 if they agree or disagree with that particular phrase, and the phrases were somehow naturally collected from the internet on solidarity work. Okay, so and that's so we do a principal component analysis, and then we can explain somehow 68% of the attitudes. So the people that we interview, somehow they are now explained by 4 extreme, exaggerated perceptions. So it's like in a theater or in a movie or in a novel that we exaggerate the profile of the persons, of the stakeholders, but at the same time we are able to synthesize what is in the audience, in the sample. And so this is the explanation of the different components. It's not big, so eventually you can have more, 90% of explanation with more components, but it's good to have 4 components. And what you find then, each one of the components somehow is a footprint, as a tattoo over of someone that simplifies one perspective. Someone which is a character of a novel. So it's not a real person. Of course, there are persons that are more in tune with that artificial person, but it is a way to synthesize. So we have this first component, and if you look at the first phrase, it says, volunteering supports people in difficulty who are assisted through a human presence far beyond the official support that the state can provide. So this is, and all the other phrases that are in the top list, so they in fact represent love altruism. Which is interesting is that when we relate these factors with the characteristics of the respondents, it is very much the ones that work actually in mercy houses that have this attitude, that favor this attitude, which is interesting. So somehow it tells that professionalism on this production function of solidarity is important. So because people there, in fact, they responded well, whereas others that were from the houses of the people or from other NGOs, they responded differently. So that's the interesting to understand. The second one is a selfish altruism. So it's somehow, you see the first phrase, my experience in volunteering was important for my professional career and myself. The proximity of the problems was very important. So it is another person, well, but somehow it is, his attitude towards solidarity was a somehow, well, good thing, but selfish, okay? And because he did it for his own utility, not necessarily for the other's utility. So that's the part of, as I told you, it's mixed with the other types of altruism, and it's good to have that. But anyway, it is when we extract from the structure of phrases, in fact, we realize that it is there also, that presence. And of course, the researchers, the people that I interviewed are against this, are somehow, well, a little bit normatively criticizing the selfishness of altruism. That sometimes, but it's there, and I told it can be used, it can be part of the system, because each one of us, in fact, usually have the different components of different attitudes of altruism. There is a third one, which is common good altruism. There is a phrase there that's somehow in the top. The volunteer is a human person who will be in contact with the patient. So it is normative. It is somehow, okay, it's like a state organizing the hospitals and solidarity and support to the poor. So it's there as well, but it is different from the first one, from the natural one, and on targeting through compassion. And it's different from, it's like, it works, it is important when the state is not so good. And the state has a lot, every state, every government has a lot to improve in every country, as we know from the news. So it's sometimes when government is not enough, so it's not efficient in collecting taxes and then spending these taxes in the best way. Of course, it's good to have this type of common good altruism, but there's somehow a substitute for the public provision of public goods. So then, of course, we have the mixed altruism that combines different. Interestingly, it is related with the local, with the place, with the island where I live, and it is well, of course, more related with the place. That reveals this idea of proximity, of the somehow in proximity in that island, that combination of attitudes eventually is the best. So that's the, okay. So to discuss all these, well, first the concept, and then now with these small results of this simple exercise, I can conclude, well, with the relative small amount of data and some literature review, that yes, there is love in altruism, there is common good in altruism, and there is selfish altruism. With love altruism, if love altruism is performed with perfectionism, that's the change. That's where we move from our family to the society. If there is some organization of this altruism, and we have that in mercy houses that have, in Portugal, have 500 years or 600 years, and I'm sure that in India we have these same organizations for much more years. So that's the type of first idea that it's important, because it is compassion, but through some knowledge, through some experience, through something that can be somehow rationalized or turned more efficient. Yes, people like to donate and to receive. That's part of our nature all over, and so we have. But the production system of altruism is complex, and its efficiency can be improved all over. eventually with more professional. Okay. And third, geography has defined, geography has a key role, not only because in understanding what is there, but also in the proximity, the strong factor of proximity in these attitudes. So, in conclusion, okay, to improve the gestures and policies that we have, we need eventually some scientific work, the theory to encompass geography with the important concept of proximity. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Thomas. It was really a wonderful lecture. And especially when you had made a beginning on the economic perspective of solidarity, describing how different sustainable development goals, if you look at them closely, they all are actually promoting solidarity approach, describing the concept of altruism, giving and volunteer, especially with a lot of details, how to achieve them, and how we can achieve well-being by being happy, and happiness can be obtained if we are trying to help others. So here we are not, helping others in form of charity, as you mentioned. It is something which is altogether very different, because we need to look at the impact as well. Otherwise, we'll be diluting the entire concept. Then what is the common good altruism, economics of volunteering, solidarity? So it was just a wonderful lecture. And at the end, when you stated that solidarity is in our heart and its effectiveness and impact needs to be understood, that gives us the best crux of the entire lecture. And you actually meant it, because we do not require charity, but care and responsibility and humanity can be promoted only if you look at the effectiveness and impact of any solidarity approach we are getting into. So thank you so much, sir, and thank you for your valuable presence and time you have devoted for this particular conference. Now, moving ahead, I would request the organizing team, student organizing team, to kindly release the abstract book for this international conference. And while the organizing team is releasing the international conference abstract, I would like to mention here that our colleague, Dr. Neha and Dr. Rashmi, along with the student teams like Yash Raj and Pratyush, have worked day and night for releasing of this and preparing as well as the releasing of this abstract book. And without their support and selfless efforts, it was not possible to come out with this abstract volume. So from the organizing committee team, we really are grateful to both the colleagues and the student team for bringing out this. So you all can have a look at the abstract volume. Maybe you can scroll 1-2 pages, Yash, in case it is possible. And we will be mailing this abstract book copy to all of you as well, so you can have a complete look at it. Yeah, so Yashraj is calling, and you can see we have the message from our Vice Chancellor, the important dignitaries, and then later on we have shared the abstract of different participants and given an insight of the activities conducted by the department. Fine, Yash, thank you so very much. Thank you, Beta. Okay, now it is time for another important aspect. And I would say it's a proud moment for SBSCNs, because this is the time when we are releasing a book, a very important book, and touching upon many important themes by 3 of our colleagues, Dr. Swati Rajput, Dr. Kavita, and Dr. Rachna Verma from Economics Department. The book is titled as Urban Green Space, Health Economics and Air Pollution in Delhi, and published by Routledge, India. And here I like to proudly say that we SBNs always believe and strive for academic excellence. Our principals, sir, our non-teaching, our other faculty members, we all are cooperating with each other and promoting and motivating each other that we should bring in academic excellence for our institution. Now, while we are doing that, I think somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, then Department of Geography comes at the first position when we are talking about the academic excellence. All the members of Department of Geography are doing well in their fields, and not only in their fields, they have carved a name for themselves both at national and international level. And by attending this conference, you must have got an idea that We believe in giving best to everybody who want to become a part of programs being associated by or being organized by the Shaheed Bhagat Singh College. And we feel really proud, privileged, and motivated when our colleagues from other institutions, and as Pandey sir also mentioned in the morning, that we are the best department across India in terms of not only faculty, but also the kind of work which is being undertaken by these faculties and the results the students are producing. And within this league, the edition which have been done in the form of this book is again a great achievement for the entire department. So I really congratulate all the three scholars, and also we acknowledge their efforts to further glorify the reputation of our department. So the book is a sincere attempt by the authors to highlight and present a linkage between the urban space, rising population, and consequential health impact. And I think with this brief, I would now invite the authors to kindly give us a brief view about the entire book. Thank you so much, and over to you, Swati ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Amrita. Thanks for nice words. A very good morning to all. Respected Principal Sir Dr. Anil Sardana, Professor Elena, Chief Guest of the event, Professor Sanjay Chaturvedi, Keynote Speaker, Guest of Honor Professor Thomas and Professor Pandey, professors from various universities across the world, dear colleagues, friends, students, and family members. I, Dr. Swati Rajput, Associate Professor, Department of Geography, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, and the author of the book, Urban Green Spaces, Health Economics and Air Pollution in Delhi, with my co-authors, Dr. Kavita Arora, Associate Professor, Department of Geography, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, and Dr. Rachna Mathur, Faculty, Department of Economics, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, feel really privileged to release our publication among the world's well-known academicians and on the stage of one of the finest departments and institutes of Delhi University and India. It's indeed a pleasure to share with you that our book has been launched in the market on 30th March 2021. It is a Routledge India publication under Francis and Taylor Group, UK. It was in 2015, we got an opportunity to work in Delhi University sponsored innovation project on mapping and analyzing green spaces and health economics of Delhi under the mentorship of Professor B.W. Pandey. It was after the successful completion of the project, we thought of expanding this topic to widen the scope of the research. After nearly 5 to 6 years of consistent effort, the book came into its present form. It was during the project and book writing we realized the power of interdisciplinary studies, especially the blend of geography and economics. With an interdisciplinary approach, we tend to expand horizon of our understanding and look issues with different perspectives too. The book will try to build up understanding of the reader by creating to historic, geographic, economic, and governance perspective. Urban green spaces are a crucial element for all the cities. They affect the townscape, provide ecological diversity, have relevance for healthy citizens and societal well-being, deliver important economic benefits, and form essential structural and functional spaces that make cities more livable places. Urban green spaces are increasingly acclaimed as central elements in the promotion of environmental sustainability and quality of life in cities. Coming to the crux of the book looks at the ecological stress on the cities and engages with challenges of reducing vulnerabilities and risks of pollution on the health, well-being, and livelihoods of people living in the cities. Cities are the world's highest energy consumers and biggest producers of toxic waste and pollutants. With an emphasis on the environmental issues facing the city of Delhi, the volume focuses on steps to preserve and manage the city's urban green spaces. It explores the concept of urban green spaces and their economic, social, health, and psychological significance in the cities. The book is based on both primary as well as secondary data sources. It focuses on sources of pollution in the city and assesses the role of urban green spaces in countering these adverse effects. The book further examines the relationship between green spaces and social and economic development, urban health, and urban governance. It highlights the good practices followed by other global cities. The volume also offers suggestions and policy recommendations to recover ecological balance in the city. This book will be of interest of students and researchers of environment and ecology, public health, urban planning and governance, developmental studies, urban geography, urban sociology, resource management, and health economics. It will also be useful for policymakers and NGOs working in the areas of sustainability, urban planning, and management and environmental preservation. The first chapter of the book highlights the concept of the urban green spaces and their significant role in cities by answering the questions of what, why, where, and how much of green spaces are needed. The second chapter discusses the historical background of green spaces of Delhi from past to present. The third chapter gives an insight into the extent of air pollution in Delhi by highlighting various causes. It also deals with mapping the spatial variation in the green spaces and pollution by identifying 35 hotspots of Delhi. Chapter 4 discusses the extent of health challenges with the help of primary and secondary data. Chapter 5 and 6 talk about the health economics, out-of-pocket expenditure, and financial burden on the city dwellers because of the persistent environmental challenges. Concluding chapter discusses various good practices followed by different countries. It also focuses on present policies and scope of such good practices in Delhi. I now invite my co-author of the book, Dr. Rachna Mathur from Department of Economics, with her huge expertise in health economics, to share her insights.
Thanks, Dr. Swati. Good afternoon, everyone. In continuation with what Dr. Swati rightly mentioned, this book also focuses on the extent of health issues and frequent occurrence of diseases due to prevalence of high pollution in Delhi. People in Delhi are spending huge amount of money on both preventive as well as curative healthcare costs. They actually pay heavy out-of-pocket expenditure on health, which adversely affect their access to healthcare. It is catastrophic, especially to the poor households, and further impoverish them. The study aims at converting this out-of-pocket expenditure into payment scheme through health insurance. We coined it as green health insurance, which is paid on the basis of willingness to pay, which will lower the financial burden of medical expenses and protecting people from economic ruin caused by high healthcare expenditure. At the same time, payment of green health insurance would also realize the importance of environment conservation in order to reduce the burden of diseases and its healthcare cost. The book is very useful for the students and for the researcher in further studies related to healthcare costs and health insurance in Delhi. We are highly indebted to Professor Gunnar Magnus Johansson, Professor Stockholm School of Economics, for giving his approval for using his model of willingness to pay in the study. The book is written in simple language for readers to understand. It gives analogy between different cities, their model and good practices, which will make it interesting to read and compare. The book runs into 193 pages and has 55 illustrations, including geomap, diagrams, and pictures. We hope reader would like it and give their honest and sincere reviews on the book, which would give us more insight into the topic and open up further scope for improvement. We are thankful to the University of Delhi for giving us opportunity and environment for conducting the research under Innovation Project 2015. We extend special thanks to Dr. B.W. Pandey, Professor in Department of Geography, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi, for his mentorship. We are also grateful to Dr. P.K. Khurana, former principal, and Dr. Anil Sardana, the principal, Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, for their constant support and encouragement. The book is an outcome of sincere hard work put in by a group of undergraduate students in form of conducting field surveys, data collection from Geography and Economics Department of our college. We are indebted to the resident of Delhi for sharing their opinions on 𝐬𝐨𝐥𝐢𝐝𝐚𝐽, the authority of Indian Agriculture Research Institute, Pusa, Yamuna Biodiversity Park, Aravali Biodiversity Park, and Association of Kitchen Garden, Defense Colony, etc. also deserve heartfelt acknowledgement for their support. Thank you all for patiently listening and giving us the opportunity to release the book. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rachna, and thank you, Swati ma'am. And once again, I wish congratulations to all the author for this wonderful piece of work which we will have got out. Yeah. And finally, the most awaited moment, because after these mind-blowing sessions of knowledge we have just attended, I think everybody look for the high tea part, but since we cannot have a high tea, but yes, definitely we do have a vote of thanks for the continuous support of the crowd here. So I'll quickly invite our seminar director, our conference director, Dr. V.V. Raman. He is the senior most teacher of our department, to kindly present a vote of thanks. But before I invite sir for the vote of thanks, I would also say that please, after the vote of thanks, stay with us for a minute for a group photograph. Thank you, everybody, and over to Raman, sir.
Thank you, Amrita. Dear delegates, dignitaries, and the participants in this international conference. Now, on behalf of the Department of Geography, the conference organizing team, and Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, I take this opportunity to deliver the formal vote of thanks at this inaugural session. Now, we are extremely thankful to Professor Elena from University of Milan, the chief guest of this inaugural session, for taking out time and putting a lot of light onto the focal theme of this conference and gracing the occasion at so early in the morning from Italy. Thanks a lot, Madam Elena. We also thank Professor Thomas Dentinho from University of Azores, Portugal, and Dr. Bindivasini Pandey of University of Delhi, our guest of honors in this inaugural session, for sharing their views on the solidarity approach in geography. A special thanks to you also, Professor Thomas, for joining us so early in the morning. Now, thanks to our keynote speaker for the day, Professor Sanjay Chaturvedi from South Asian University, to have enlightened us for the quest for climate solidarity in an unequal world. Thanks, Professor Sanjay. I do take this opportunity to thank our college principal and chief patron of this conference, Dr. Anil Sardana, for always extending full and unconditional support in all our endeavors from the Department of Geography. Thank you, sir. I also extend our thanks to Professor Yukio Himiyama, Professor Brij Maharaj, Professor Rana P.B. Singh, Professor Jarko Sarinen, Professor R.B. Singh, Professor Malika Karam Hussain, Professor Ludovic, Mr. Alexei Maskalov, and others of whom I miss maybe taking the names, who have taken time to advise us and also taking out time to be with us in this inaugural session, as well as joining to be sharing their thoughts on the central theme in our following program. I do also extend our sincere thanks to all the participants, including the guests, the dignitaries and delegates, professors, teachers, researchers, and students from our own college, from different colleges and the Department of the University of Delhi, and from different institutions across the country and abroad, who are part of this session and will be there in this two-day conference attending our technical sessions, and also to those who have joined us, especially for the book release. Thank you all. I will fail in my duty if I do not acknowledge all students, staff, and faculty who are associated with this conference as part of the organizing team led by Dr. Kavita Arora. I congratulate them and thanks also to them. Also, I thank my colleague, Dr. Amrita, for steering us through this inaugural session. Thank to one and all once again. Thank you. Over to you, Amrita.
Thank you so much, Raman sir, for a wonderful and quick vote of thanks. And we are extremely sorry that in this difficult time, since we are on a virtual conference, we are not offering you high tea. But maybe in future, we would again invite you when everything would become fine to have a cup of tea with nice pakoras with all of you. So thank you so much, everybody. And now I would request everyone to kindly on their cameras, on their video cameras, so that we can have a group photograph. I request all the dignitaries, the participants, to kindly on their video. And I'll request the team who's responsible for clicking the photographs to kindly take a note of this.
Yeah, it's done.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Kavita ma'am.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Amrita, for the wonderful coordination of this session. I am again thankful to Professor Elena, Professor Thomas, Professor Pandey, Professor Chaturvedi for joining us, and all the participants and presenters who are with us in this session. And we request you to again join us at 12:30 for the panel discussion. This is a very interesting panel, and I hope that you will gain some fruitful information and knowledge regarding the globalization and regional solidarity. So thank you everyone for joining us.
Yesha, can you share